Geschlossen. Wirklich hübsch.
Stepping inside his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, until he saw the door with a voice receiver next to it. Surely behind this door lay all the answers to his questions. And beyond all probability, he knew the passcode. He had seen it on his boss's computer just last week. Nightshark 115. Was this the code to open the door? Would it still work? There was only one way to find out. Stanley had been trained never to speak up, but now he would draw from within himself the courage to face the unknown. He drew a sharp breath and then spoke the code.
Interessante Bilderwahl haben die hier. Was steht da?
Stanley spoke
I'm
the
the most
code.
expensive boss.
Nightshark 115. He spoke it into the receiver, right there on the wall.
Wenn ich nicht will, speichere ich mal.
I'm sorry, is there a problem? You didn't mishear me, did you? Please speak the code into the receiver. Otherwise we can't get on with the story. This is a crucial step.
Was soll ich machen? Hast du was gesagt, Stephen Fry?
Okay, fine. You're not gonna do it. But you know what? It's pretty humiliating to bring you this far, only for you to suddenly decide you have better things to do. I asked you for this one single thing, for your respect. The kind of respect Stanley shows for his choices. He knows what it means to take a story seriously. If you didn't want to see what I had to show you, then why did you come here? You had a choice, you know. You could have gone through the door on the right. You could have done whatever the hell you wanted over there. Why did you come this way? Speak. Say something to me. Explain yourself, you coward. When Stanley came to
What the fuck?
two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Nein, hat er nicht.
Stanley? Hello? Are you... Is everything okay? Stanley?
I have an out-of-body experience.
I need you to make a choice. I need you to walk through the door. Are you listening to me? Can you hear me? Is everything all right? Stanley, this is important. The story needs you. It needs you to make a decision. It cannot exist without you. Do you understand me? Whatever choice you make is just fine. They're both correct. You cannot be wrong here. We can work together. I'll accept whatever you do. I simply need you to take that step forward, please. Choose. Do something. Anything. This is more important than you can ever know. I need this. The story needs it. So, you hear me? Are you there? Are you listening to this? Stanley, are you there? Okay. It's okay, I can wait. You need time to decide. Time to make sure your choice is correct. That is the best choice. That's all right. I'll wait for you to decide what's the right thing to do. Take as much time as you need.
Großartig. Hey, ich dachte, ich könnte mir so viel Zeit nehmen, wie ich will. Die andere Sache,
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
ist lustig, er scheint es auch immer zu variieren, was er erzählt. Was wollte ich sagen? Ach ja.
When Stanley came to a set of
Genau, dieses Ding über Entscheidungsfindung in Spielen. Und die Illusionen der Entscheidung, weil natürlich gibt dir das Spiel die Möglichkeit, etwas auszuwählen, aber das ist ja auch keine freie Entscheidungsmöglichkeit. Du musst eins von beiden Sachen machen oder von 3 oder 4 oder was weiß ich, damit es überhaupt vorangeht. Und das wird exakt...
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5
ach ja, ans
years
Telefon
ago.
gehen. war die Sache, die ich ausprobieren wollte. Das heißt, man hat nicht die Wahl, einfach nichts zu tun. Also klar könnte man das tun. Manchmal. Und es würde einfach nicht vorangehen im Spiel. Aber es gibt auch Spiele, wo selbst wenn man gar nichts tut, es trotzdem vorangeht. Ich rede mit dir, Call of Duty. Wo man gar nicht anhalten kann. Sich mal umschauen kann und bla. Jedenfalls nicht ohne zu sterben oder so. So. Jetzt will ich mit meiner Frau reden.
Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
So, und ich gehe ran.
That's her, Stan.
Oh, Stanley, is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
What the fuck?
Gotcha. Oh,
Ich kann nicht laufen.
on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here.
Nein.
Sorry, but you're in my story now.
What the fuck?
This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Was? Aber ich will nicht sterben. Und vor allem, was heißt mein Tod? Ich würde gerne etwas tun. Verhungere ich hier? Muss das sein, dass hier ein Stuhl im Weg steht? Ja, Spiel, ich hab's begriffen, ich kann hier nichts tun. Oder ist das ein Bug? Ah, ich traue dem Spiel alles zu. Aber eigentlich nicht, dass das hier... dass das hier nicht so weitergeht. Leute, ich muss hier ein Let's Play machen. Ich muss hier Action bieten, sonst klicken die Leute weg und gehen zu Mr. Tutorial oder so und lassen sich zeigen, wie man Lippenstift richtig aufträgt. Weißt du, Stephen Fry, wenn du glaubst, ich würde mich hier langweilen, dann hast du dich gewaltig geirrt. Ich habe eine Puppe zum Begrabbeln. Oh yeah. Ich habe einen Kühlschrank, ich habe ein Herd, eine Mikrowelle, einen Wasserhahn. Ich verdurste nicht. Errungenschaft freigeschaltet. You can't jump. Oh, weil ich oft genug versucht habe, die Leertaste zu drücken. Geil. Seht ihr? Ich kann mich auch so amüsieren, ohne dass irgendwas passiert. Aber unabhängig davon, es wäre sehr witzig, und ich sage das mit eigentlich mehr der Hoffnung, dass das jetzt passiert, aber nicht wirklich der Erwartung, dass wenn ich jetzt Escape drücke, um das Spiel zu beenden oder neu zu laden oder so, dass dann etwas passiert. Ah, sehr gut. Press I on your keyboard. Ich habe gerade Escape gedrückt und es ist das passiert. Ja, das Spiel enttäuscht wirklich nicht.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
War da eigentlich ein Wortwitz irgendwie? Von wegen, you can't escape oder so? 8. Was passiert, wenn ich 7 drücke? Nischt. Nischt. Wenn ich I nochmal drücke? Nischt. Na gut, ich drücke 8.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Ach nee, es war alles nur ein Traum.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations.
Ich ahne es.
Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable. It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself? I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Okay. Es ist interessant. Es ist schon wieder dieses philosophische Ding von wegen, wir sind in einem Spiel und verschwenden unsere Zeit, weil wir wirklich nur ein Observer sind, also ein Beobachter von dem, was andere für uns hier vorgesehen haben. Und im Grunde nur die Auswahl, die andere designt haben, die Programmierer und so weiter, dass wir das durchführen. Was ich übrigens für falsch halte. Weil auch Designer können nicht alles vorhersehen. Man kann in einem Spiel vieles machen, was vielleicht nicht der Mechanik des Spiels entspricht, aber trotzdem etwas Neues ist. Ich könnte zum Beispiel Stoppuhr machen und gucken, wie viele Umdrehungen ich hier in einer Minute schaffe. Yay! Okay. Haben wir noch eine Entscheidung? Also, bestimmt haben wir noch eine Entscheidung, die wir noch nicht ausprobiert haben. Ach ja, wir können alles genau machen, was gesagt wurde. Ne? Wir gehen direkt zum Meetingraum, dann gehen wir direkt zum Büro des Chefs und sprechen diesmal aber ins Intercom rein, anstatt uns zu weigern.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Das Spiel ist so genial. Diesmal kann ich runtergehen? Warum? Das konnte ich letztes Mal nicht. Statt ins Büro gehe ich runter in den Keller.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Am Arsch.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Sehr gut.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day, the very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Schön. Und es geht alles wieder von vorne los. Ich komme ja nie mehr raus. Ah. Ach, ist echt großartig. Immer wenn man gerade denkt, ach komm, was Neues kann denen doch gar nicht mehr eingefallen sein, bringen sie noch einen Twist rein.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
So, diesmal gehen wir aber die Treppe hoch.
Not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Dieses Spiel will mich doch verarschen. Wieso ist das Büro jetzt anders?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2185. 2185.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Stanley simply began entering random codes into the keypad, knowing full well the sheer statistical unlikelihood that this would ever result in a correct combination. If he knew that the combo was 2845, it would be another story in time. But it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself.
What?
And Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Ja, whoop-de-doo. Ich habe mir zwar die Nummer gerade aufgeschrieben, deswegen war gerade dieser Krach, aber was passiert, wenn ich... Alle guten Dinge sind 3 vielleicht? Wenn ich jetzt 2845 eingebe. Okay, keine Reaktion. Na gut, die Tür geht trotzdem auf. Also diesmal habe ich aber auch wirklich alles gemacht, was gefordert war. Oh, man kann dahinter gehen, aber man sieht nichts. Schade. So, jetzt aber hier. Knopf gedrückt. Oh, das ist ja wirklich vielleicht diese Untergrundanlage, von der er vorhin erzählt hat, ne?
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
So. What the fuck? Okay, zurück geht's nicht. Speichern wir mal.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Nein.
Although this passageway had the word Escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Ach ja? Gerne.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Ich denke ja gar nicht dran.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Ja. Oh, ich komme hier nicht raus.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.